Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator news and updates. And we got some information about the MD11 update, the 777-200ER, as well as 737, 747 updates. Sky Simulations releases the DC-9 and more, so stick around. If you are interested in any of my tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides as well as any future guides that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. All right, folks, so first, a little shameless plug-in. Don't forget, if you guys missed the intro, we have two new guides released out on Patreon, the 777 guide and the Duke. Absolutely fantastic aircraft. If you guys are interested in learning those or just supporting the channel, help me out on Patreon, tier 2 and above. Now, for PMDG, some news on the 777-200ER. It is entered beta testing. Usually how this tends to work is what I have found is usually once an aircraft enters beta from PMDG, anywhere from 1 to 2 months later, we usually have it in our hands. So, given the fact that the aircraft is based around the 777 series of aircraft, which obviously we already have the 300ER as well as the freighter version, I'm hopeful that we'll see this aircraft a bit sooner than that. Now, they have also announced a little bit of an update based on the MSFS 2024 compatibility. Unfortunately, there still seems to be an issue with the Microsoft Flight Simulator platform itself that is preventing adequate memory allocation, which is preventing the team from being able to push the aircraft forward into 2024. Robert Randazzo, the lead developer of PMDG, did state that he is hoping that Sim Update 1 will address these issues and allow them to get moving and get these aircraft compatible for 2024. However, as he is hoping, he is not hopeful. So we'll just have to see what happens. I know that they are definitely getting frustrated with the situation, but in this particular scenario, there just isn't anything they can do until the SDK for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is fixed. There's also minor updates on their way for the 777 and the 737, so keep a lookout for that. And we don't have any new information other than hopefully some new screenshots and development updates on the 747 later this week. So stay tuned as more comes down the line. TFDI Designs has released a massive update for the MD11. This is actually incredibly impressive for a single update. So first off, let me get into some of the cooler stuff, and then we'll talk about the basics. So first, what have they added to the aircraft in this latest update? SimBrief import and integration for P3D. Didn't mention anything specific to Microsoft Flight Simulator, so it doesn't seem like that's there yet. But physical throttle position display, say intention support for Microsoft Flight Simulator, a more robust baro sync options, minimum sync options, scroll wheel acceleration option, display light behavior, econ off and alerts. Changes that they've made to the aircraft: they've improved the startup sound, improved the GE sounds, they've removed the altitude alert exclusion type, reduced the volume of the fuel ignition on startup for Microsoft Flight Simulator, slight improvements to the exterior sound mix for Microsoft Flight Simulator, slightly reduced the cockpit engine volume for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and refined interior engine sound mix for Microsoft Flight Simulator as well. Now, as far as fixes, I'm only going to go through a couple, you guys. There has to be at least 50 on this list. Microsoft Flight Simulator EFB showing ICAO length instead of ICAO. Analog standby altimeter was not rolling properly. The FMA overlap under the single land conditions. Temperatures not starting at appropriate defaults. Engine bleed pressure and temperatures showing when engines were off. ND occasionally drawing invalid distance. ILS inconsistencies. RNAV inconsistencies. Auto land inconsistency have all been resolved. There's just so much more than that, guys. That's just the scratching of the top. They have a ton. The 250 knots at 10,000 limit not being applied below at cruise below 10,000 feet. let's see here. There was another one that I went. Oh, SIDS and star pages missing the arrows, so you can't cycle through them. So they've done a ton. Again, there's still probably another 30 fixes that have been provided for this aircraft, which is really nice to see because the MD-11 is a badass aircraft, definitely very iconic, and we were all very excited when it was released, but I know that it had quite a few issues, so it's nice to see that those were not ignored, and we get some new features and changes to the aircraft as well. So again, that has already been released, so make sure if you guys are already pilots of the TFDI MD-11 that you pick it up. If not, you guys can pick this aircraft up, I believe, for right around, let me get the price on that for. Okay, $70 US from their website. That's what I thought, but I didn't want to overspeak on that one. So for $70 US, you guys can pick this aircraft up from their website. It is an amazing plane, and TFDI Designs always has a great reputation. So hope you guys enjoy that one. Next up, found on the Just Flight website and the sim market for around $50 US, give or take, based on where you are at. The Sky Simulations has released their DC-9-10 as well as the DC-9-30. This is an incredible looking aircraft, and they've done an absolutely wonderful job with it. It will definitely be one of the aircraft that you guys will see here on the channel. But let's talk about some of the awesome features. So for the aircraft, it is considered a quote-unquote state-of-the-art replica of the aircraft. Again, sporting the two different variants, the -9 and the -30, in both passenger and freighter configurations. They are also boasting Microsoft 2020 and 2024 native icing and native decals. Dynamic flexible wings. You're going to have main door, service door, cargo door, forward and rear stairs, cockpit windows accurately modeled and animated. Horizontal stabilizer movement based on the real aircraft system logic and real data. One of the things that they have stated is that they've gotten real pilots involved with the testing of this aircraft to verify that the flight data for the flight dynamics is accurate and that the aircraft flies as should be expected in the real world. Now, that doesn't necessarily, at no point did they say that it is considered study level, but they certainly hint to it with things like state-of-the-art replica, and again, real pilots, you know, giving the okay to the aircraft. So something to think about with this particular bird. 3-position landing lights, retracted, extended. That one, I don't know why they listed that. Like, okay, I would certainly hope so. Like, that seems like to be a no-brainer. But the 3D modeled and animated thrust reversers, wipers, fan blades, pitos, static probes, static ports, operational wipers in 4 positions, ground support equipment, and air start. Let's see here. The other ones, a lot of the basic stuff I'm going to try to skip over here because, I mean, they talk about all the typical details that you would find in it. I'm not sure why they broke down, like, for example, you know, integral lights, highly detailed and fully operational virtual cockpit, 3D instruments, you know, high-def cockpit textures. Like, I feel like some of these are sort of, you kind of need to have these if you're going to be a part of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like, it's just sort of the standard in really any flight simulation as of now, in the way that I kind of look at this now. So when they break them all down like this, sometimes I get worried that, like, are you just trying to flood the description to make it look better or what? Like, I mean, I get it. It's cool. I'm not knocking them down here. Like I said, I will be picking this one up. Flight dynamics. Here's the one where we were talking about earlier. Flight dynamics tested by real airline pilots and performance based on many real-world comparisons and flight manuals. Fully reliable in-flight performance and climb manuals. Perfectly simulated weight and balance according to the weight and balance manuals. So it keeps coming back to the manuals, but they did also, like I said, to reaffirm, state that real-world pilots of this aircraft gave the sign-off that it was done very well. Enhanced engine sound. The sound package is fully native Microsoft Flight Simulator, taking full advantage of all new features. Complete engine sound package, recorded during engine run test, outside and inside the aircraft. Ground proximity warning systems, warning and caution sounds, and takeoff configuration and warning sounds. As far as the air conditioning and pressurization, they say they have a fully simulated air conditioning system, a fully simulated cockpit and cabin temperature control, as well as pressurization system. So it definitely screams for high fidelity. Again, they don't dare use the word study level, and I can't blame them. That is a scary word to use these days. You know, get beat up pretty quickly for using words like that. But so keep that in mind, guys. It's on Just Flight or the sim market, right around $50 US. The DC-9, definitely an older aircraft, so you're gonna have to be ready. You know, you're not gonna find your glass cockpits and all the fancy screens that you were probably used to in a lot of these aircraft that we've been flying lately. So if you're into the nostalgic kind of aircraft, more of the steam and analog gauges, you're still gonna have some glass cockpit in it, but definitely not to the level that you guys are used to. So if you like a busy cockpit and a plane that requires a bit more pilot intervention to fly and maintain, this is a great way to go after that. And anyway, it is out and ready for your hangar. A real quick update from GSX. GSX, for me, I have hit and miss with it. We have sort of a love-hate relationship. Some days it works really great for me, and other days, if it was a physical thing, I would throw it across the street. But they have released a new package for pushback. They have added the new Challenger 700 tug, as well as giving it a dynamic level of detail. So if you're up close to it, it's going to look very, very sharp. And obviously some of those details are going to reduce as you are further back. And as you can see here, the other thing they've added here is something that I do think is pretty cool. And that is a custom pushback engine start line. So what this is that as the aircraft passes the point that you're seeing here on the screen, that is when you will receive the call that you can go ahead and start your engines. And that is very true in real world. They don't usually start when they're right next to the jetways or right up against the terminal. Usually you'll get, you know, a lot of aircraft have distance restrictions that you have to pass and before the engine start process can complete. Some of them don't even let you do a start until you are actually completely away from the gate. So it's a really neat feature that I like that they've added. There's the Challenger 700 that we were talking about, the new tug that they've added to it. And so the other thing they did is they said they adjusted the overall control scheme and mechanism for controlling the tug to make it a bit more user-friendly. So if you guys are big GSX users, this is definitely a time to make sure that you go and update. It is version 3.3.3. And if not, do not forget that you can pick this up on the FS Dream Team website for $24.99. Now, do not get me wrong. GSX is a very awesome software. It was a little rusty when it first released, but they've definitely ironed, I would say, the major bugs out of it. It's not the headache that it used to be. And if you have the time and the patience to really dive into it, you can set up some really cool templates that will obviously change dynamically based on the aircraft that you have, and you can set it up per gate per aircraft. So there's a lot of really cool options that come with GSX. It's a very, very popular tool and very, very powerful tool. You guys can see the wing walkers there as well, guiding the aircraft out. Again, that is all GSX talking. So it can do far more, and it really does a lot to bring your simulator to life. So again, be thinking about that. If this is something that you guys are interested in, make sure that you check it out. Again, that is the FS Dream Team $24.99 GSX Pro version 3.3.3. Well, that is going to wrap up this episode of news and updates. I hope that you guys have found this video useful and at the very least entertaining. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video, and stay safe and healthy. I'll see you in the next one.